All right, all right. Welcome everyone to the second ever live stream that I've done. The first one that I did was on analog synthesizers, which is after spirituality, perhaps my second greatest passion. And today we're talking about the thing that actually matters the most to me, which is spiritual self development, enlightenment, self awareness. So I put together a series of fun graphics here that I think will be really interesting and hopefully illuminating to explore and look more deeply into what you are beyond just being this guy, which is what we all think that we are on a day-to-day basis, is pretty much just this guy that is, your body sitting here right now. I made it real immediate. You're sitting here watching the computer, and our typical day to day experience feels something like being this person, having thoughts, having sensations, and between the thoughts and your sensations, that basically comprises your whole personality, your whole psychology. I would add emotions in there too: thoughts, sensations, emotions. So most of us live and die experiencing ourselves as purely those three things. And there's so much more to ourselves that we can learn to unlock through intentional spiritual self inquiry. So, what is there beyond this bubble realm of everyday experience? Well, there is your awareness. And a lot of people, before I dive into this, a lot of people think that awareness is something that is created by the brain. And in a sense, you could say that it is. You could say, I think a more accurate description would be something like this: that your brain is like a sophisticated radio. And is the radio the thing that creates the sound when you hear it? In a sense, yes, because it has the speaker that vibrates. But more fundamentally, when you imagine your brain, or when you imagine a radio, the source of the music that's coming through originates at the radio tower. And the radio tower is your being. So over here we had awareness. I'll talk about how awareness and being, for now, just think of that as the same thing. So to tap into this really experientially, if you take a moment and you're here being this person, you're watching the screen, instead of focusing on thoughts, sensations, and emotions, if you just let your mind totally relax and kind of become the background space here, just feel into the fact that awareness effortlessly exists whether you're thinking about it or not. I'm going to do it with you. I'm also going to change to this scene so we can see this better. So if for, say, 5 seconds, you just drop your thoughts, your sensations, or attention to your sensations, and you just exist. Just exist. Then you notice that there's something here that is aware, regardless of whether you're thinking. And that awareness, basically you can feel right now, it effortlessly is. It just exists. And so at first, this can feel a little bit mundane if you haven't tapped into it before. You haven't paid attention to it. It's kind of like, okay, what's the big deal? It's still being filtered through subtle mental containers. But if you really just take another moment, 2 to 5 seconds, to drop attention on thoughts, emotions, and sensations, and you just exist as the isness, then it starts to reveal itself to be the container in which the totality of your experience is arising. You can actually start to feel that your body and your brain arise within this field of awareness. And so you'll hear me probably pause and breathe several times throughout this video, because this is a practice, a recognition that I'm still honing in myself. And I want to share from this place of awareness as much as I can, rather than it being a conceptual presentation. So I'm going to take it nice and slow. This is actually a powerful, beautiful thing about tuning into awareness, into this being more deeply, is that it actually is the source of intelligence. Going back to this example here, your brain, your thoughts are not actually the source of your intelligence. They're more like the conveyors of it into the physical world. And so you can actually, I'm not thinking thoughts right now in order to convey what I'm conveying. I'm allowing myself to rest as pure beingness and allowing that being to convey its intelligence through me. So this is actually where, as a civilization, I believe we're going, is we're leaving this paradigm of being purely ego-identified body-mind constructs to being individuals that are consciously connected to their source, consciously aware that they are source, and we're basically becoming embodied, individualized versions of source itself. And it's kind of a misnomer to say we're becoming that, because we actually already are this, but we're basically opening this channel. We're clarifying this channel so that we're not blocking the beauty and the divine intelligence of being through filtering it through our, who we think we are, our thoughts, our patterns, our psychology, our traumas, etc. So this is if you're watching this, you're already tuned in to something that's way beyond where the average person is. If you walk outside, pretty much no one you encounter knows that they are being, that they are awareness, that they are source intelligence beyond just being a body mind. And that's okay. No shame on them. In fact, I forget a lot of times throughout my day when I'm not focusing on being, on awareness, which I'm using all these words interchangeably right now, then I also get sucked in and forgetting it. I get sucked in, I forget that, and I re-identify around just being a body mind. So it's it's not a journey of going from like one extreme to the other. You're not just gonna like learn about this and then flip into just like perfect remembrance of your true nature at all times. But it's a process of kind of like flicking into dropping all thoughts, emotions, and sensations over and over and over, and just resting as the effortless being that remains. As you do that, you start to realize that you're not a human recognizing being. You're actually being that forgot that it was being. It was your being that thought it was a human. or maybe thought it was just a human. So once you steep in this, then some really beautiful recognitions will start to dawn upon you. I mean, this is already the gateway to freedom. When people talk about enlightenment, when people talk about the states that Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, all the enlightened sages throughout time have achieved, the gateway is always through the I am. The I am is just another way of saying awareness or being. You could say there are subtle nuances, but here I'm using all of them interchangeably. And so one of the beautiful things, like I said, I encourage you to practice as you watch this, just like taking 2 to 5 seconds to drop all thoughts, feelings, and sensations and rest effortlessly is the awareness that remains. You'll notice you can't turn off awareness. Even when you're in full rest, there's something alive and aware and transparent that is here. That thing that you call I when you say, I am, is this primordial field of awareness. So one of the beautiful things that has dawned upon me recently in a very experiential way is that being has innate qualities that are extremely beautiful and extremely just better than I could have ever imagined. I was joking about this with one of my friends recently, saying that what you are is better than you could have possibly ever imagined. And so how I've been feeling lately, I tried to find an image of how I've been feeling. And this was kind of a fun approximation. So this is a rendering of the bioelectromagnetic field that surrounds your body. It's called, the shape is called a toroidal field, or a torus. And I can actually palpably feel this torus flowing through me right now. And this is kind of a newer development in my experience of life. I had an experience where I had a deep encounter with being in a way that was so direct and so clear, much more clear than I've ever experienced before. And one of the qualities that was revealed to me in that process was that our nature, being, which I've now mentioned several times, is it's full of innate qualities. One of those qualities is love. And I'm just taking a moment to tune into that and feel that. Yeah. It's okay if this doesn't make sense conceptually. It's something that can be understood conceptually, but not felt conceptually. So this can only be evoked through direct experience, and it's okay if that's not your experience right now. This is a new experience for me of recognizing that being has in its fabric and its very nature, it has eternal, boundless love. What we are is truly a loving, a loving field of intelligence. And I learned today, funnily enough, I'm not Christian, but I learned today that gospel means the good news or good news. And it just resonated with me so much because, like I said, I was laughing with my friend about this feeling of being love that's dawning upon me. And it's like, wow, what I am is truly so much better than I could have ever imagined. And it's what you are too. And we're all at different stages of penetrating the mystery of what we are. And it just made so much sense. Like, truly, the good news is that what you are is better than you could have possibly ever imagined. And so, the question for all of us, really the most important question we can ask ourselves, is the question, who am I? Which might be better better phrased as, what am I? Or what is I? And so that's, in my view, the most interesting exploration in the world right now and throughout all time. And so how can we explore that deeper? I think that's the most interesting thing for us all to tune into, is like, how can we become more enlightened? Because enlightenment is not just for the sages, the gurus. Enlightenment is for everyone. So the best way that I have found is truly, I would say, a bottom-up approach. Bottom-up referring to, in a hierarchical view, like your body is kind of the bottom of yourself, so to speak, the most dense form of yourself. And so usually, if you're watching this, for example, and you feel like, I have no idea what you're talking about, I'm pretty new to this, I don't really get it, then especially for someone like you, it's so important to start with a bottom-up approach, where you really want to start with the body. Like, how can you learn to start to take care of your body and treat your body as if it's literally the greatest gift from God, because it is. And as you start to activate your body, it could even just be something like before I started the stream, I literally got up, I started jumping up and down, and I started going, yes, yes, and making sounds and hyping myself up. And instantly, even just doing that right now, I can feel my state change. So I'm literally, without doing anything other than that, kind of hacking into my body, I have increased my energetic frequency closer to my true nature of awareness. And then the next step would be doing the emotional work. So understanding your psychology deeply, whether that's going to therapy, whether that's having some kind of intentional group. I mean, this is like 101. We're just societally getting to the point where we can, where we're not demonizing therapy anymore. But like, that kind of stuff is really important. Taking care of your body, understanding, know thyself, know thy psychology, understand your traumas, learn to become compassionate towards yourself. These are all like the essential building blocks that if you don't have these, in my opinion, it's unwise to try to go into like transcendental spiritual understandings, because it can easily turn into like spiritual bypassing, and you get this kind of situation that you see often, where you can become quite advanced in those states without doing the foundational work, and then you get things like spiritual gurus who sexually assault people and who financially exploit people, and all of this kind of bad stuff, where you're like, what? This person, I thought they were so realized. It's like, yeah, well, they didn't really do their bottom-up work. They didn't clear through their body and their psychology to have the foundation to hold the magnitude of light that comes from this experience, and then it gets distorted harshly through a prism, the prism of that is you, and turns into distortion. So one of my commitments, I feel like I don't even need to say this, but part of my purpose in this life is like I'm doing the bottom up work, and um, I have had the experience of my favorite spiritual teacher, you know, get me too'd and fall from grace, and I just refuse to repeat that pattern in any kind of way. And so, yeah, I can't stress how important it is to do that. That's to say, you just have to get to kind of like at least a minimum viable product with that, you know. Um, like if you feel super unhealthy and you never look inward, then like you have minimal shot at maintaining kind of an enlightened breakthrough experience, because your inner wisdom will also keep guiding you back down into exploring the unresolved things, and it will just blow up in some kind of way where you can't deny it. So, uh, um, yeah. So, what can I end this off with? I feel like I've shared most of what I want to share. I would say once you've done that bottom up work to a minimum viable degree, or even if you haven't and you just want to like get a glimpse, because it's still valuable to like glimpse these um, sort of self transcendent states before you've done all the work per se, is it's truly a practice of examining, who am I? What is the thing inside of you that you call I? And so there are really two initial ways that come to me of doing that. One is just completely becoming disinterested and disengaging for a moment from thoughts, emotions, and sensations. And then resting as the effortless, spacious awareness that remains. Like you're here right now, whether you're thinking or not. You can feel that, right? And start to just like become acquainted with how does it feel to pay attention to that pristine, effortless awareness that's here when you just fully relax your mind. It's also here if your mind is active, but it's more easy to recognize clearly. Like just imagine that instead of focusing on thoughts, you're just becoming the space in the background. Disengage. Rest as being. As you sit with that, it will start to literally transform your neural pathways over time. Like monks, for example, they have different amounts of things like gray matter in the brain, meditation, things of that nature. It does rewire your brain. And I'm not an expert on this, but I would guarantee that or I should say, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we studied a series of enlightened masters and we looked at their brains and we noticed, if we could study it minutely enough, different neural pathways that allow for higher amounts of this light of self-realization to be flowing through. Obviously, those are not technical terms necessarily, but you understand the meaning. And I say that so that you're not discouraged if you don't feel this right away. Like when you first drop your thoughts and you focus on just relaxing as the being that remains. At first, it can be hard to fully detach because your mind is so used to latching onto your sensations. But if you stick with it, sometimes 20 minutes into a meditation, sometimes right away, you'll feel yourself kind of pop out of your old frame of reference. And it'll be like, I wasn't getting it for 19 minutes, and then on the 20th minute, just oof. Oh, this is what it's like to just be being. That's all that I want to share right now. This was a lot of fun. Still learning how to share this, and yeah, I love you. We are truly on the most epic adventure, returning to the remembrance of what we are. Yeah, I love you. I'll catch you in the next one.